Okay, I want to give you a quick overview of different types of woods, categories they sit into, and some of the properties of wood. This is kind of a fun project we do on the laser engraver, help you kind of learn the different kinds of woods. I'll talk about more of that in a different video. So basically there's really kind of three different categories of woods. The first is hardwoods, the second is softwoods, and then manufactured woods. A lot of people designate hardwoods from deciduous trees, and deciduous trees are trees that lose their leaves in the wintertime. Softwoods are usually evergreens, but of course there are exceptions to every rule. This is one way of designating the woods, but there's a few different other ways of talking about grain densities and stuff. So I'm only going to go over just a few of the woods. Let me go over the manufactured woods first. The first one we have is MDF, which is medium density fiberboard. Really efficient to use. You can buy a 4x8 sheet of that and use every inch of it. But it's basically just sawdust glued together. It machines well, but it creates a lot of dust, and the dust is pretty toxic. So that's kind of the downside of MDF. Another manufactured wood is plywood. Plywood's really strong, easy to work with. You could buy 4x8 sheets of it and use every inch of it. It's strong because the grain goes this way and then this way in the next layer, so it's all cross-grained. As you can see the different layers there. A third is oriented strand board, OSB, and also a lot of strong properties of OSB. So those are just some of the manufactured lumbers. And then as we look at natural woods, they're kind of split between two categories, hardwoods and softwoods. On the softwood side, this is a framing timber. So this is fir. One of the most common softwoods is fir, and almost all homes are framed. Floor joists, wall studs are all Douglas fir like this. This is some really pretty nice tight grain. This is the heart of the tree here, and then this is the sapwood on the outside. Our next softwood is pine. Pine, really inexpensive, pretty grain, works well. It does have a lot of pitch in it, which is a downside, and also a lot of knots. So you got to be careful of the knots and the pitch buildup on your saw blades. Cedar is another softwood. Cedar is really good for fencing and decks. There's a high acid count in cedar, so bugs don't like to eat it. So it's good landscaping lumber. And then the fourth one is redwood. Redwood as well is a good landscaping lumber. Bugs really don't like it very much, so it's good for decks and fences. The key to good redwood is you really need a lot of heartwood. So if you're buying cheap wood or inexpensive wood, it will mostly be sapwood and will deteriorate quickly. All of these are pretty soft. Fir is by far the hardest of the softwoods here. Okay, and on the hardwood side, kind of in order of cost, poplar has this green tint to it. Poplar machines well, is nice to work with, but a lot of people don't like the color of it, so it's usually considered a paint grade wood. Oak, by far the most common wood we have in our area and actually all over the world. Oak is really hard. It isn't actually food quality for cutting boards because the grain's kind of open. From oak we go to maple. Maple, really pretty grain, really dense, really hard. I really like maple a lot. And then from maple, maybe the next one is cherrywood. Cherrywood, beautiful grain. I don't see how pretty it is there. Getting a little more costly, but cherry machines really well, works really well. Kind of everybody's favorite, but it's expensive. Black walnut. Black walnut's also most everybody's favorite. I love it. Machines well, nice density. It looks beautiful, has that really dark, rich grain and varied grain in there, but also pretty expensive. So those are, some of the common hardwoods around here. I'll just throw in two more that are kind of in the exotics category from overseas. One is purple heart, and really Purple heart is used more for decorative striping and stuff. You don't really, make big projects out of purple heart. I just kind of like to inlay that purple in there. Really very dense, really pretty grain. One problem with purple heart is, if you put this up against a maple like on a glue lamp and you sand the two together, all that purple dust gets into that maple grain, so you gotta be conscientious of that. And another common one is Padauk. That's an exotic hardwood. I think that's how you spell it. And it has this really pretty orange color. Pretty nice to machine, nice and hard. It's good to work with as well. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of hardwoods. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different kinds of woods around the world. And which wood you choose really depends on what project you're doing.